Good evening. Welcome to Shell Shocked, celebrating 40 years of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. We're delighted to have you all joining us at the Stavros Niarchos Foundation. My name is Allison Ellis, and I'm a supervising librarian of programming and outreach here at SNFL. And as a lifelong TMNT fan and a lifelong comic book fan, I am so geeked to be here tonight and being able to celebrate the 40th anniversary of TMNT with you. So before we begin, I would like to thank the Stavros Niarchos Foundation for making programs like this evening's panel possible. And I'd also like to thank the fine folks at IDW and Paramount for making today's lineup of programs happen. And I would like to encourage you to visit the New York Public Library's website and take a look at upcoming programs just like this one. And if you haven't gotten enough Turtles, on November 18th, if you're in the area, we will be hosting a comic book discussion. It's our monthly program about The Last Ronin, so hopefully you'll all be able to join us. And it is now my pleasure to introduce tonight's guests. Ben Bishop is most recently known for his work on the New York Times bestseller, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Last Ronin, the story of the lone surviving turtle from TMNT co-creators Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Ben is currently balancing his time drawing for The Lost Years, the follow-up story to The Last Ronin, in conjunction with wrapping up his work on Drawing Blood Volume 2, the fictional true story of how the TMNT were created, only they're samurai cats, and it's a long story. Over the last few years, Ben's been lucky enough to work on childhood favorites and legendary licenses such as Lego, Ghostbusters, Batman, Transformers, G.I. Joe, Power Rangers, Bloodshot, Savage Dragon, Kanto, and more. And you can follow Ben on Instagram and Twitter at Bishart, at Bishart. Comic book artist, writer, and colorist Sarah Myer is an Eisner and LA Times book-nominated author of the graphic memoir Monstrous, a Transracial Adoption Story, which is the 2024 Isla Young Adult Nonfiction winner and has received multiple starred reviews, a Junior Library Guild Gold Standard Collection, and was selected as Kirkus Best Teen and YA Graphic Literature of 2023. Sarah is currently the illustrator and cover artist of several comic book issues of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Saturday Morning Adventures, and was previously the colorist of TMNT vs. Street Fighter and TMNT Saturday Morning Adventure comics, as well as a variant cover artist of TMNT Usago Yojimbo, Where When issues for IDW Publishing. In addition to Sarah's published graphic novel and monthly comics, they are the writer and illustrator of their independent webcomic Cheer Up, Michael. Sarah's previous work includes Hello Kitty and Friends coloring book, the Ringo Award-nominated anthology Votes for Women, The Battle for the 19th Amendment, for which they wrote and illustrated the installment Asian American Exclusion, and the graphic novel Maker Comics, Create a Costume. In addition to writing and illustrating comics, Sarah previously taught foundation studies courses at Savannah College of Art and Design for 3 years and has attended anime and comic conventions since 1999 and has been selling their art in a variety of conventions since 2002. Sarah can be found at sarahmyer.net and on Instagram at smyercomics. Mateus Santolouco is an artist and comic book creator better known for his acclaimed work on IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Santolouco has worked for most major publishers in the United States since 2006, including DC Comics, Marvel Comics, Image Comics, and Dark Horse. Among his fan-favorite works are TMNT, Secret History of the Foot Clan, and TMNT, Shredder in Hell, which are both written and illustrated by Mateus. And finally, tonight's conversation will be moderated by our own in-house turtle fanatic, Corey Oliver, who is also one of our fabulous teen librarians. And with that said, I'm sure you're tired of hearing me talk. I want to welcome up tonight's guests.
Hello. Hello. All right, okay.
Hello.
Again, I'm Corey Oliver, one of the YA librarians here at the Stavros Niarchos Foundation Library, and I am so pleased to have with us these shell-shocking guests. Please, a round of applause again for them. So I want to get into the most important question first, if you guys don't mind. By show of hands, you're all included in this. Favorite turtle. So raise your hand if your favorite turtle is Leonardo. Two of you. Okay, so why Leo?
I think I grew up loving Mikey because we were all a little bit Mikey, and then as I got more mature, I think I became a Leo. That's all I got, and I like blue. I think swords are the best weapon. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the swords. Yeah, the katanas. Yeah.
That tracks. Donatello. See some Donnie fans. Okay, so go ahead.
Similar to what Ben was saying, when I was a kid, 87 Michelangelo and 1990 live action movie Raph were my favorites. But the older I get, the closer I get to 40, I find myself relating a little bit more to Donatello, particularly his stress levels.
I have to add that if I play video games, Donatello all the way.
Okay.
The reach. The range.
The range.
Raphael. He's so angry. He's just so angry.
But he's got a heart of gold.
And that's why he's a good leader. And lastly, Michelangelo. Yeah, okay. Okay, so you can have two, sure.
You've picked 3 now, 3 of 4. You
I love them all.
Fair. So, for our guests, what was your first experience or memory with our turtles?
Turtles?
Yeah.
Let me think. I grew up with turtles, like most people in here probably, but it was the toys and the cartoons and the cereal and the sleeping bags and the underwear and doing all that at the same time while drawing turtles, watching the cartoon. So I was just like fully immersed in it and the character creation. I think it's always gone kind of hand in hand with my own art and creating characters and things like that. But one of my early memories that I think is kind of fun, and I think it's real, or it might just be one of those stories I've said so many times it's real in my mind, but we were on our way to the drive-in theaters to see the second movie. My dad was driving and my mom was passenger, and we were in the back, my brother and I, but we were also very late, so we're late for everything, and so we're speeding, and we get pulled over, and we're in the back seat like, oh my God, now we're going to be even more late, and the cop was like, you know why I pulled you over? Why were you speeding? And my dad just like turned to us, and he was like, we're on our way to see the second Turtles movie, and we're late, and he was like, go! so I'm pretty sure that happened, but we'll see.
Mateus?
Well, back in Brazil, the comics, they weren't published there. So I remembered when the show started to be on air, but during that time I was in school, so I wasn't able to watch. But then the arcades arrived, and then I got addicted like really fast to that arcade. And then the 90s movies came out, and it's funny you mentioned you were late because I think this is one of my fond memories, is both playing video games with my brother, the arcade, and being late to the first movie. And so we lost the first part of the movie, and then we were like really bummed, and my dad said, we can stay and see it again. And then we see it like 2 times in a row, and I was like a fan for life after that.
It's beautiful.
So I was born in 1986. I quite literally can measure my lifespan by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1987 cartoon. One of my earliest formative memories is just watching it. I think season 2 was like big on replay when I started to really like actually have memories. And I remember watching the Incredible Shrinking Turtles a lot. The VHS too with the pizza monsters, you know, in the microwave oven, such a novel invention. They say it like it's a new thing at the time, but you know, and a memory that stands out, I would say, is that in after-school daycare, we would often argue over what movies we were going to watch, but for whatever reason, I think we all know because it's amazing. The 1990 Turtles movie was the great pacifier, basically. Everybody be bickering over, no, we watched Brave Little Toaster the other day or whatever, you know, and it'd be like, somebody would inevitably go, Turtles? And everybody's like, yes. So the 1990 Turtles movie was definitely a peacemaker in daycare because we all just universally loved it.
Thank you. You all have a lot of history with the Turtles, but now what does it feel like to have given up some of your own talents to this beloved series?
It's kind of surreal, actually. No, I don't have any other words to describe, actually. I mean, it's at this point, once you got to work with it, we have to just be professional, you know, and not getting like too carried away with that emotion. But when you stop to think about it, it's pretty much surreal. Like we were the 3 of us. We were at Granite Con in New Hampshire a month ago, and I met April O'Neil. I mean, it was insane. And yeah, this kind of things that happens, and hanging out with Kevin Eastman and stuff like that is just like never in a million years I imagine I would be doing that. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've always loved turtles, like everyone has always loved turtles. But for me, like I said, it was really tied into my art and the reasons why I do what I do and make comics. And so I was inspired by the turtles coming up, and then in my art itself. But then in the way that you get that art into the world, I was inspired later by Kevin and Pete when I found out that they self-published the first issue and many issues after that. And that really inspired me to self-publish. So it's always kind of gone hand in hand and weaved in and out of it. So as I was coming up making my own comics, it was like a natural force for me to want to chase making the Ninja Turtle comics. And that whole process took from like 2012 until about 2020 when Kevin asked me to be on the book The Last Ronin, because we haphazardly, because of my own self-published book, which has nothing to do with Turtles, got in front of Kevin and we were working together on something else. The whole turtle thing, just it was that time to come back into it, and getting to meet people like April O'Neil, but also other creators like Sarah and Mateus, and see how they make art and how it's been in their blood their whole life is really cool too.
Yeah, Turtles is just such a dream come true, honestly. And what going with what Mateus you mentioned, like it's really important to not get too caught up in that emotion. I think I'm going to quote Wayne Allwine. He was one of the longest running voices of Mickey Mouse in regards to how I try to approach it. I have to hold it close to my heart, but not so close that when or if it leaves, it's going to kill me. So in other words, like I have to constantly keep myself in check and not think I love it so much. I don't want to tie all of my self-worth up into drawing it, but I recognize what an incredible honor it is. So for now, I'm just going to enjoy the ride, and I'm just so appreciative.
Thank you, guys. Speaking of a great honor, Mateus, you are the art and story lead for the Secret History of the Foot Clan and the miniseries Shredder in Hell. So my question is, what was your inspiration to discovering a background for Shredder? He's an iconic villain for this series, and how did you come to understand his footing in the series, pun intended?
Well, it's completely different, two different things, like Shredder in Hell and Secret History. And Secret History was actually my breakthrough into the Turtles. Before that, I just had made half of an issue, but coincidentally, that issue was when they revealed the reincarnation plot on the IDW series for the Turtles. So I drew the part where they were showing like the previous life of the Turtles in feudal Japan, and they also presented that Shredder was alive back then with the human forms, incarnations of the Turtles. So when I was like commissioned to do Secret History, it was like my immediate reaction was, well, it has to be related to reincarnation as well, since it's part of the soul of this series after all. So I brought inspiration from a lot of Japanese movies, just to bring the setting, but I also wanted to pay homage. And back then I didn't know if I was going to keep doing Turtles. It was my first actual Turtle books writing and drawing, so I also wanted to pay homage to my memories from the 90s movies and all. So I tried like to mesh these two inspirations together and have a story where you have the same feeling that we have when we were watching the Turtles back in the 90s. In the movies, but also this kind of Japanese cinema kind of vibe. Now for Shredder in Hell was another thing. I drew issue 50, which is the issue where Shredder dies. And soon after I finished that issue, I was in San Diego talking to Bobby, my editor, and I told him, look, if you ever when you bring Shredder back, I wanted to do that. I wanted to write and draw that. And say, we're not bringing him back. I mean, come on, man, this is comics. He's going to be back. He's going to be back. When you do that, you call me. And then he did, and he said, well, the title is Shredder in Hell. You're bringing him back to life. Have fun. and I wrote like 3 drafts for that story, and I was not quite finding the right spirit for it. And then I was looking back at the very same issue where he dies, and I figured it out. I figured out it should be a love story, and not a story about just hell and hellish things. It should be like a spiritual journey of Shredder understanding who he is, what he have done, why he did it, and trying to find a way back to his love, which is Kitsune. Yeah.
So during that process, did you have any, if you can share with us, any habits you have trying to get into the work mood, any rituals to like create the mood for the comic?
Nothing too different, I guess. I try to push hard at that, push my. I try to raise the bar on my work in that book, in Shredder in Hell specifically, and I kind of screwed myself up doing that because it was too much work. So it was like a long period of time. My mood was changing a lot. Like sometimes I was like, why did I do this to myself? And other times I was having fun and having a blast. Yeah, nothing very particular. Just my regular thing, like waking up, drinking coffee, putting some music, and getting to work. Just it.
I'll open it up to both of you as well. Do you have any fun work habits, rituals?
I found it very helpful recently in the recent years to have like a studio outside of my house so that everything's all set up. And that's like one less question that needs to be answered or one less thing that needs to be done. I can get in there and just get to work. And as far as like weird rituals or like finding the zone, the studio itself is like on a river, so that I can just like look at the water and like try and find that mood. And then for the longest time with Last Ronin and then with Lost Years and now on to Re-Evolution, 3 different series since the very sad Last Ronin, I do find myself like putting on that sad music and like trying to feel something for like 12 to 16 hours a day while I'm drawing it, and then I'll find myself in weird moods later where I'm very quiet and I've been, in some kind of self-inflicted purposeful depression for all my work hours. But I'm like, man, that work, it came through. Like I felt something when I made it. So I punish myself. That's an answer.
That's such a Leonardo answer too.
Is it?
Like, look at the river and kind of have a meditative state.
Yeah. Follow the river.
Yeah, so in drawing Saturday Morning Adventures, it is hilarious to draw. I have such a blast reading Eric's scripts, and I really enjoy it. But the listening material that I use, like I have playing while I'm drawing it, is not at all what you would expect. It's been audiobooks, which are biographies of historical figures. Ron Chernell's Alexander Hamilton, and Neil Gabler's Walt Disney, the Triumph of the American Imagination. That's what it is. That's the subtitle. Have been on repeat off and on for the past year and a half, but I cycle them out probably foolishly with YouTube videos that do deep dives into true crime. And for whatever reason, Fascinating Horror is a channel that I'll listen to. And Scary Interesting is another channel. Believe it or not, I think they're both friendly with each other. I was like, which one of you copied the other one? Anyway, and I'll just listen to these little, 20-minute videos about, like, at a time, on playlists about the dangers of deep-sea cave diving. And just things like Mr. Ballin, places people should not go but went anyway. And I think it just gets the adrenaline pumping. So if I feel like I'm getting tired, I'll think, well, I'm just listening to these horrific things, and it's going to keep me alert. It'll haunt me. So
you're like drawing beautiful, gooey pizzas, and then also poor Sarah in the background.
I'm drawing Michelangelo looking really like perky and happy, and like I'll make that facial expression while I'm drawing it. Meanwhile, in my headphones is playing. At that point, he knew nitrogen narcosis was nearby, was at hand, and he never surfaced again.
Thank you, guys. I'll stick to you, Sarah. So, like you said, you are an artist for the Saturday Morning Adventure comic, and it is a blast from the past. It is really, it's very one-to-one, but it also feels kind of brand new. How do you and your team try and maintain that look?
Oh wow. Well, first of all credit in maintaining the spirit of the comic. You know, keeping that really close to the '87 show. All credit has to begin with Eric Burnham, who writes the scripts, and they're just an absolute blast. Like when I say I'm like giggling and laughing while I'm reading the scripts and drawing the layouts, I'm not even exaggerating. It's so much fun. And then Luis Antonio Delgado, who does the colors for Saturday Morning Adventures, as well as, you know, he's worked with you on The Last Ronin. And that's such an honor for me to, as a fan of his work, you know, have him be working on my inks as the colorist. Credit to him definitely for capturing that look, the palette of the original series. And we've talked about how, you know, the 1987 cartoon, it had, you know, several seasons. It ran from '87 to 1996. There were multiple different animation studios at any given, you know, time. And you don't always have exactly the same shade of green for the Turtles, et cetera, from episode to episode. You guys might have noticed this when doing a rewatch. It's like, wow, I remembered it in a certain color. But then in you know, say the Dublin episodes, there's maybe a grayer palette to it. And that's the limitations of the time with cell paint. But Luis does such a great job just capturing the quintessential look. Whether he's coloring, you know, my pages or Dan Schoening's pages. And Dan definitely brings the Toei animation episodes 1 through 5 look for sure back to life in beautiful detail. So I just have to give all that credit to the team, my teammates. In terms of, I guess, for me, just trying to keep it, you know, make sure that it remains true to the original for sure. I definitely try my best to keep the characters on model, but I do feel that I've been given some freedom to, you know, kind of inject a little bit of, like, I'm not given any sort of, I don't feel restricted if I try to put in a certain kind of character acting into the way that they're gesturing or anything like that. So I'm allowed this freedom with these characters, like they're very pliable clay, as long as they more or less look like themselves from back in the day. So I think that that's how we strike the balance. But I got to give all the credit to my teammates and to the editorial staff who are so supportive.
Thank you so much. General question for my panelists. So for those of us who may not be in the know, what is the process of coming up with a new edition? I know you mentioned a few names, you know, like editors and all that whatnot, but from concept to publication, if you can give a little...
like a whole new book? Like,
let's say like a single issue.
a single issue?
Yeah, just the one.
All right. Do you want to do this? Yeah.
Well, it depends from project to project, I guess. Like there has been projects that I made like creative meetings before starting the project, even before having a script. In other projects, me as an artist, they just call me and say, want to do the project? They send like an outline, which is like a general view of the story that we are going to tell. And from that, I can start working on covers and even character concepts if needed. Then after that, we'll get the scripts. And on our end, we'll get the scripts, make layouts, which is pretty much a storyboard for the comic, send that, wait for approval, and then get to work. And then just draw, which is pretty much the less creative part of the process, is more mechanic, just because the creative part for me, when you are really doing comics, is when you're doing the layouts. You're reading the script, you're transcribing, you are translating the script, the words into image, into sequential art. This is where you really are doing the comic. And then doing the final art is more just mechanic.
Craft.
And once we do that, if you're doing on paper, scan it, and send it to the publisher so they can have everything approved, then go to the colorist. And sometimes while the colorist is doing the color, the letterer will start to put the bubbles and all that. Maybe the final product will be like the editors take the end result of all the thing and put it together making production value for the book and dressing for the cover and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Just that the art aspect of it, like once we get the ball, it's different for everybody. You know, everybody has their own process. We were talking about how, back in the green room, we were talking about how back in the day, because you asked if we were all, you know, working remotely for IDW, who's the publisher of the Turtle stuff. And I said, yeah. I said, but it's always kind of been like that. And I thought, oh, actually, no, like in New York, there used to be, you know, bike messengers who, when Marvel had, you know, a big building or DC had a big building, and they would run the pencil pages, like, or bike the pencil pages over to an inker somewhere, and then the inker pages would go over to the colorist, and the colorist pages, and they'd cycle them all around. So the bike is now email. And we can do that. But a lot of times too, and especially with us, we'll do everything ourselves as far as like pencils and then inks and then sometimes colors. And
It's funny, I almost always forget that, because for me, the drawing and the inking, the pencils and the inking is
like
part
one
of the
step.
same
Yeah.
step. I don't even remember that. A lot of people
yeah,
still do that.
it's
yeah.
like the experiment stage where everything is like, you know, blue sky. You can do anything when you're reading the script, and you can do it your way. Say, oh, I want to choose this angle, or draw, you know, character from in this weird pose, and you can try everything. And then when you've chosen it and you said, oh, this is what I want, then you go on to the final. But you're doing all that kind of simultaneously. I am away too, except that I do that roughing and all the experimenting digitally, so that it's truly like I can do whatever I want, undo, redo, flip it around, blow it up. And then when I think it's perfect, I can print that out, put it on a light box, and I do my final on real paper. So I've kind of segmented the penciler and inker within
I'm doing the
myself.
same right
Oh, you
now.
are?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing the layouts on digital, and then I print it. Only I don't do the light box.
Oh,
I
you do
print it
blue
on
light.
the really light green, so the scanner won't get that. So I just ink over it and do pencils over that. Yeah.
What about you?
I currently am doing layouts as well as inks digitally, and there are tighter pencils over the layouts, but nobody will really see them because they're just in a layer and clip studio, you know.
It's that that middle step between.
Yeah.
No one's, yeah.
And oftentimes too, I'll go and I'll be like, all right, layouts have been approved. It's time to start inking. And I'll look at a page and I'll be like, oh man. And I'm like, what idiot drew Michelangelo is just an orange smiley face. Oh, that was me. That was me from 2 weeks ago. Crap. I'm
I
like,
tried-
all right, time to go in and sketch that really quick, you know. But yeah.
Well, thank you for the free masterclass.
It was quick. It was quick.
Less industry question, more fun question. So, you all have your darlings, but do you have a favorite headcanon, a favorite story from the grander series?
Very excited about this question.
Yeah, I mean,
You are being recorded, just as a heads up.
yeah,
So-
I like it so much, but really the reason I started doing the Turtle comics was because of this guy and his City Fall arc was part of the IDW run to 100. Do you remember what issues those were? Because I know in the volumes it's volume 6 and 7.
City Fall, I think, is 22 up to 29 or something like that.
Yeah, but fell in love with that. It's Leo Goes Bad, Dark Leo. It's awesome. And then you designed all that and did all, yeah, so that was inspiring. I love that. I love a lot of obviously what Kevin did in the past. Body Count with Simon Beasley's really, really good. But yeah.
Are we talking just about the IDW comics?
you can include TV
and-
shows, movies, whatever you need.
Yeah, well, I think the first 90s movies is probably my top one. But I really enjoyed the story arc, which I don't remember the name of the story arc, but it's from issue 45 to issue 50 from IDW, where Shredder dies. I really enjoyed that, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry for the spoiler, guys.
One person's on issue 44. Like,
So I guess from the original Mirage comics, I really love the one-shot story, I believe written by Peter Laird, Donatello, and wait, is it Kirby and the Warp Crystal, or is it Donatello and the Kirby? I think it's. Do you guys remember? I'm misremembering the title, but Donatello meets Jack Kirby, who is renting April O'Neil's basement, and he goes on an adventure where the entirety of it really is a loving tribute to Jack Kirby's incredible ability to just create and draw like the wind. And it's really bittersweet, and I really enjoyed that. It's never actually happened in the 1987 cartoon. It was adapted in the 2003 TMNT by 4Kids animated series and done really well. But I just think that would have been. I'm actually a little surprised that it wasn't featured in the '87 cartoon. There was a storybook that was drawn in that similar style that came out, but. And then in terms of, I guess the movies, I will always, if anybody says that they don't like The Secret of the Ooze, the Turtles 2 sequel, I will always say to them, listen, there's this part that always struck me, even as a kid, where Donatello is actually pretty depressed about when he finds out that the mutagen was an accident, that the thing that made them was an accident. And he's very melancholic about it, and I just found that to be something that really stood out. I just found that to be a very, surprisingly, deep and tender moment, and it's something that isn't really played with as much after that, but it is something that, as a fan, I did a fan comic about, Donatello, 87 Donatello, kind of in keeping in that vein, and I sort of dipped a toe into that kind of what if that really is an underlying kind of mystery that he's trying to solve. And then he comes out and he's like, oh, never mind. I just made a Parmesan shredding machine. Yeah, but what if that's what he's actually kind of tinkering away with? He's trying to figure out, the truth to their origins. I just always found that to be a very interesting story exploration thread. So, that would be my answer to that question.
And if not that, Ninja Rap, right?
Right? Yeah. Vanilla Ice.
I love all those movies.
It's great. Yes.
They're all good.
I really do love Shredder in Hell. It was really sick.
Thank you.
But my favorite show is Fast Forward.
Oh, really?
Fast Forward? No one?
Oh my God! Wait.
Has no one seen Fast
After
Forward?
Return to the Sewers?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, on CW.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Fan?
Well, no.
Okay,
Well, I just want to make sure I got it right. Sorry.
well,
What year were you born?
let's not. Hey.
Because I didn't really watch that show.
I was awake when it aired.
Yeah.
Every iteration is awesome in its own way.
Yes.
Cool though, because
yes.
it's like super future stuff. I love
Yeah.
that. That's what I got to do.
So the next
Super
question's for
future
you.
stuff. Super future stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, The Last Ronin is a very, very mature departure for the usual, pizza-loving hijinks. What was your process in choosing, the look and style for the comic and compared to the larger legacy?
Sure. Well, Kevin definitely directed that whole thing and had the style in mind and sought out artists for certain parts. He happens to do the old Mirage style for some of his scenes, which are kind of narrated flashbacks. If a character is actually telling you a story, it would cut to that black and white crosshatched, very Kevin Eastman style. For the main art of the book, which mostly takes place in the future, with the hooded Ronin that you've seen in the black bandana, that's these two guys, the Escorza brothers, who Kevin plucked from some books they were doing. He'd worked with them before on heavy metal, but they really have that style that you might be thinking of, which is that gritty, crunchy kind of Frank Miller, Dark Knight Returns that Kevin definitely wanted the story to be. And then he humbles me by saying he chose me because and I don't know if I'm saying his name right, but David Mazzucchelli, Batman Year One, who's if I could draw like anyone, it would be like that, and I don't think that I do. But I think he was maybe speaking to again the emotions and the faces and maybe some cinematic qualities that I try to do. But yeah, the whole tone of everything, again, credit where credit is due to Luis Antonio Delgado, again, who's the colorist for all three of those sections and ties everything together. But for me, I really wanted, for my scenes, I got to draw the scenes where you see what happens to all the other turtles. So I was listening to sad music all the time.
Spoilers.
And so it really wanted to just have those be very emotionally hard-hitting scenes, but also especially with issue 2 where we start with Raph. It's very violent, and I was hoping to kind of set that bar that I knew that Kevin was after with this is not going to be like this turtle story or that turtle story. It's going to be this new bar that we're setting, And so we got some feedback, of course. You can only go so far. But after that, we were like, okay, now we know, like, we can continue with that kind of bar going forward, and that kind of just weight of the story. You know, if you're going to take it seriously kind of thing.
Thank you. All right, one last question for our panelists. So, if you had a big say, where do you see the series going in the future? With all these turtle fans here, I'm sure we're all excited to see what the next thing is, from you guys especially, but where do you want to see the turtles go?
Well, the next thing is there are 4 new turtles.
Yes, there are literally 4
You
new
get to see
turtles.
them grow up in the sequel to Last Ronin, which is the Lost Years. They grow up from each issue 3 years, 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, until now, the book we're on, Last Ronin 2 Re-Evolution, they are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So I would like to see them everywhere on underwear, sleeping bags, cereal boxes, cartoons, and inspiring future generations. Yeah, that would be amazing. And a movie of that, yeah.
Oh man, you don't want to. I still got to think a little bit about
All
it.
right, okay.
Yeah.
I think that one of the cool things about Turtles, even like growing up as a fan and now working with it, is that we have in comics, in the cartoons, in the movies, we have the chance to see all these variations of the characters from all these different artistic point of views with different artists doing that. And I really love that you can have all these different versions of the Turtles and still be one big franchise. So I think what I hope to see is for that to keep expanding, like it's expanding with Ben and with the new show, the Mutant Mayhem continuation, and with the comics in IDW, seeing the continuation, like now with Jason Aaron, and with the Saturday morning cartoon versions. And I just want to see that expand more and more and more, so we can have even more Turtles. Yeah.
I guess. Well, first of all, I got to say, as a fan of The Last Ronin, because that came out and I was reading it before I got the chance to draw Turtles officially, I felt like that was such a wish fulfillment. And I don't know if I'm effectively speaking for all fans, but of Turtles throughout the years, but I remembered thinking, wow, this is like the conclusion I would have hoped for, whether I'm thinking of the 87 Turtles in a far-flung future, or whether, like if they live to be 120 years old or something, or like whether it be the 1990 Jim Henson Turtles, So it felt like a very, very believable conclusion and sequel effectively to pretty much any iteration of Turtles that I ever loved as a kid. So that would have been my answer a few years back, but and it still is like such a great definitive conclusion. I feel like that was just so perfectly done. But I guess so. That's my answer as a fan. I'm an anime fan, so I like the episodes 1 through 26. It's over. You get an OAV and then a movie, and that's it. But I think as one of the artists drawing Saturday Morning Adventures, I just want to see more of it, and I would love to see, fingers crossed, another crossover event, because that was so much fun to be able to draw the 87 Turtles interacting with Jenica, interacting, with 2003 Donatello in the pages of the comic. And I just, whatever comes next for the comic iterations, I'd love to be able to contribute a little piece of it. I think that would just be so much fun.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'm looking forward for that movie.
Yes.
Yeah, movies. Yeah, there's going to be a Last Ronin movie and video game, and then we're going to have a Lost Years HBO show. No. Hopefully. No. That
Thank you,
part was
guys.
made up. Yeah.
I think we have time for some Q&A now. Allison's over in the corner. If you have any questions, please speak into the mic.
Sarah said something interesting not too long ago, how every iteration of the Turtles is awesome in some way. it kind of dawned on me, or has been thinking, especially with IDW, since they got the license, you've been taking aspects of the Turtles that maybe were not as well liked initially. Like, as a kid, I loved Next Mutation, but I wasn't aware of Venus de Milo had a negative reaction. But I loved her as a kid. But I loved how it made took the concept and made had a great new take on it. I'm curious if there's anything in the same way that you maybe didn't dig originally in an iteration, but have now grown to appreciate or love in some other way.
Yeah, I definitely think that revisiting characters that were maybe initially not well liked or well received is always such a fascinating opportunity for storytellers. I guess anecdotally, I'm just gonna say like Mr. Og from the 1987 series, the way that Eric Burnham writes him in these scripts is so funny, so sassy, and he's just such an amusing, witty character to illustrate, with his facial expressions. At one point, he's playing a sad defense lawyer. I was like, this is just amazing. And, it breathed new life into that character who, in the 87 cartoon, had his own thing going on. He was funny, but it wasn't necessarily, like, to that level that I feel Eric brings to it. So I definitely agree with what you're saying, that there's redemption for every character, every version, every concept, one person's that didn't really land for me might be another person's favorite iteration or character. My best friend's favorite character of all time is Vernon Fenwick from 1987. So I'm thinking maybe there's another fan out there who also likes Vernon Fenwick. I don't know, but for now, like, that would be interesting to see what potentially, for example, we could do with that character in the Saturday Morning Adventures cartoon, or if there's a more serious version that could exist somewhere out there.
I don't know if I have anything for that. I get excited about like turning putting certain characters into something. Before I got Turtles, I was doing a lot of like fan comics, like, hey, let me draw Turtles, and I'll just go on the record. It was called TMN10. It was Ben 10 meets Ninja Turtle. But I really wanted to bring Needlenose into it as like a character before. Do you remember Needlenose? He was the big mosquito. You could have guys ride on him as only the toy. And I don't think he was ever in anything else. So I had like what he looked like as a human first, and he looked like Roger from Doug. Yeah, so you can picture that mutation.
Yeah, well, I do think that Sophie Campbell did a great job with Venus de Milo. But actually, I think that one thing that I would like to see is more like story arc from the show, from the Nickelodeon show. I think it's not 2012, 2003. Same as it never was. Yes. That I would like to see in the comics. Yeah, for sure.
Oh my God. Please bring me along for the ride if it happens, because that's like literally probably one of my favorite episodes of any iteration ever.
Sure.
Yeah.
Any further questions?
Shades of Last Ronin with that Michelangelo, though.
Hey guys, thanks for doing this. It's been great. I was wondering, from the 80s cartoon, are there 2 or 3, this is for all of you, if there are 2 or 3 episodes, maybe a couple episodes that you really, really like a lot, and maybe why? And also, in the first movie, the 1990 movie, are there any particular moments in the movie that really stood out to you? There's a lot, but I'm sure, but...
Pizza Guy have 30 seconds is a big one, and Raphael being beat on the rooftops by the
That
foot
fight is
ninjas.
so good, yeah. All the
The
stuff.
cartoons I didn't watch that much, to be honest. I mean, as I said, it was hard for me to watch back as a kid. I was in school, so I have like random memories. They are all over the place. I don't have like a particular episode. Yeah.
My cartoon memories are kind of like that too. I definitely, I think it might have been one of the very first episodes where they're grabbing the warthog and the rhino from the zoo with the little Mauser bots. The animation is just so cool in that. It's like really, really well done. And I think that was one I had on VHS, so it was just like played and played and played. Definitely seen a lot of the other stuff, but it all meshes together. And then for the movies, I mean, anything in the suits, I'll just like stare at the suits. They just are so real, and they can emote like nothing else really. Like And so seeing them in the antique store or in the fight on the roof, especially in broad daylight like that, it's just so cool. So I'll just watch that movie just for that alone, but everything else about it is great too. And I think the suits in the second movie are awesome as well, and I love Kino. So
Okay, I can't really pick an episode, but I'll give a quick rapid fire list of my favorites. All right, one, I consider season 1, episodes 1 through 5, with the zoo, and the Mousers, to be its own episode. Just I consider that like the OAV, the awesomely animated OAV by Toei Animation. And then in terms of my individual favorites, Turtles on Trial from season 2. I might get the seasons wrong a little bit. It has that guy Clayton, who was like a daytime talk show host. And it actually features the 87 Turtles kind of briefly tackling issues of prejudice, because they have to deal with Clayton basically spreading misinformation bombastically about the Turtles and saying that they're a menace. So the Turtles then have to deal with people in New York being very suspicious of them. It's really well animated. I want to say it looks like it was animated in Japan, but not quite by the same team individually that did the first season. Donatello's degree is just hilarious to me. Vernon goes fishing. I don't know why Donatello's degree at the end looks like it was drawn in crayon. I just think it's hilarious. He and Irma go on a road trip too. Leonardo versus Tempestra has excellent special effect animation. Also, it's hilarious to me because Donatello builds a submarine that he takes Michelangelo and Raphael in with him. And then when they're en route through the flooded sewers, they're like, "Where are we going, Donatello?" And he's like, "I don't know, there's no steering wheel." And they go, "Whoa." And I was like, this is the best. That has got to be the best Donatello invention from that show. And there's several more, but I don't want to take up too much time. Sorry.
Do we have time for another? Let's get us someone over here.
Let me get over here. Been over here a lot. Not that your questions aren't great.
Hi. Several of you mentioned drawing fan art before you were asked to draw. I would just love to hear more about that journey and how drawing fan art brought you to have these roles that you have today.
Directly, honestly. So there specifically, I drew that My Name is Donatello fan comic, and then a piece that I drew for it was a illustration of all these different versions of Donatello, sans Rise, I believe. And I just wanted to play with all the styles and have the slight differences in the Donatello personalities throughout all those iterations interacting. Like 87 Donatello's scared, but the Mirage one is aggressive. My editor on Monstrous, a transracial adoption story, actually showed it to one of the editors at the time, and that's what got me my first gig drawing the variant cover. And then from there, they asked me to be a colorist, and then from there, eventually drawing it. So basically just being a big nerd, a big fan of it, and being at the right place at the right time, and having shown that I've drawn them multiple times was what really helped. But I definitely have to give credit to that editor, both editors, for taking a look at it and giving me that opportunity.
But there would have been nothing to show had you not drawn it.
That is true.
So I think that's huge. It's like if you make it, they will come. It's Field of Dreams. But for me, it was like, I had this idea for a Ben 10 crossover. I love Ben 10. I love Turtles. And it gave me an excuse to, do new character designs for each of them, and then that gave me something to show, to say, hey, I would love to draw Turtles. Here's how I draw them, and then looks cool, try again, looks cool, try again for so long that I ended up with kind of an arsenal of all these fake covers, like Turtles on a subway car, Turtles, fighting the Shredder. And then I had many, many examples of what it could look like if they were to let me in someday. And so I think that was really helpful. So whether it's your own book or, a specific character, the best way is to show that you can do it, I think.
Yeah, for sure. But also, when you do fan art, you're also experimenting ideas and practicing your craft. And for example, I remember that the first time that I drew the turtles different from each other, because in the cartoons they all look the same, and I always had this idea in my mind: they should look different. No single animal looks the same. And the first one I did was back in 2015, and then when IDW approached me, 2005, and then when IDW approached me in 2010, I immediately I brought back this idea. So I have to try to, if they hire me, I have to try to make that happen. And so I proposed that right away. And of course, I made a new drawing because I was better. but yeah, it helps for sure.
Thank you. Do we have time for another?
Coming back up to the first row.
Hi, guys. So I'm wondering, I know you guys are really old Turtle fans, but...
Thank you.
No, I admire that about you. Really, I do. I'm wondering if you guys still keep up with the new TV shows and movies, especially the last couple, like Rise of the TMNT and Mutant Mayhem that came out last year. Really loved Mutant Mayhem. Was so amazing. I just want to know what your opinions were about those movies if you got to see them.
Yeah, I try to see everything. Turtles for sure. The same way, around the same time that he was really inspiring me to try and chase Turtle comics, the 2012 show by Ciro Neely on Nickelodeon, that one that was computer animated, and we were all like, computer animation? And then we were like, this is awesome. But why do they have 3 toes? Like, but loved that, and that was super inspiring. So ever since I see everything. But the new movie, for sure, Mutant Mayhem, I remember being in the theater and just hearing kids laughing at jokes I didn't get. And I was like, this is great. And you know that that's like their turtles now, and it's just like inevitable. It happened, they saw it, those are their turtles, which I think is really cool with turtles at different times.
Yeah, I loved Mutant Mayhem. I thought it was great. But similarly to Ben, I did have moments where I was like, "Wow, I really need to research the latest slang."
I didn't know anything.
Yeah,
It's like, bacon, egg, and cheese? What? What are they talking about?
And it definitely had a new generation feel to it, at least from my elderly perspective. But I really enjoyed it. I thought it was beautiful. I felt like it had a lot of style, it had and I mean that in terms of panache. Like there was that one sequence where you see the camera kind of going in a round motion, and they're like all shown fighting for the first time when they're trying to get information. And I just remember sitting there and getting chills, thinking, okay, all right, I might be old, and I might feel like this is a newer generation's thing, but these feel like turtles I can get behind. I really enjoyed it. I think Rise is so beautifully animated, and frankly, the comedic timing in that show is hysterical to me. I feel like it's become its own take on it, completely in so many different ways. But the feeling behind the show, it's got its own flavor, and I just really enjoy that. And I also love the 2012 series as well. So I do try to keep up with everything. I am behind in terms of I hadn't seen the Mutant Mayhem. I see your shirt is the animated TV series. I saw a few clips from it, and I think the character facial expressions are so great. So I got to check it out for sure, but I haven't caught up on that just yet.
The animation's great. You really should watch it.
It looks really good.
Yeah, well, the same for me, but I'm a little behind in the shows as well. I mean, the 2012 I didn't finish.
Dude, the last
Yeah,
episodes.
I know. I heard.
The last episodes. That's what I want to see more of. Mad
Rise. I saw the last movie they did, but the episode I just see like random episodes is really well animated for sure. And I saw the movie Mutant Mayhem, love it. Didn't watch the show yet though, but I try to catch up.
I have a question before we break. So for everybody who's going to Comic-Con this weekend, where can we find you this weekend?
So at the show, I'll be doing signings with Royal Collectibles at a table, 2 times every day, an hour each signing. And Friday at Macy's, I don't know which Macy's it is, the Herald's. We'll be releasing the new Undead Turtles from the new toys, the Undead Turtles toys from Shredder in Hell by the Loyal Subjects. So we'll be doing a signing there and releasing those. Yeah.
I'm in Artist Alley at table B24.
I'm in Artist Alley at table A16, so it's like right on the left wall.
All right, guys. Well, I have some few notes here. Cowabunga.
Noted.
I love being a turtle. Turtle power. It's ninja time. Turtles fight with honor. All right, we got them all out. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it.